Hello, my name's Penny. I live in the southeast of England with Pete and my 4 chickens. If you haven't been here before, it's just a chinwag. It's somewhere to sit down, put your feet up, have a little chat and unwind maybe. What do I usually do? Have a chat, show you what I've made during this week. And then I show you a fascinating fact. This week it's about the newts. No, that was last week, the newt's lens. Well, it's pointless me coming on if I don't know what it is. Honestly, do you go like that sometimes? It's the Arctic ground squirrel. It's a fascinating fact. So that is there. As I was a counsellor for the NHS for coming up for 20 years, I retired last year. People have asked me if I do a bit of counselling. So I started in episode 12 and it does build. So if that's something you'd like to come along with, then it may be worth a while having a look at episode 12. Or if you just want to have a little listen, please join us. So we're doing strokes this week. It's quite interesting. It's building. Got a long way to go. But and we keep going back and coming forward. But I'm hoping that you're enjoying it if you do watch. There's a little film at the end. We went down the 39 steps again and the tide was out. So I'm going to make a little film of that, I think. Also, we're going out with my granddaughter, Tommy's mum. Tom is due January the 1st. My great-grandson. We'll do a test, they'll do a test, all of that. And the little place we go at Goodnestone Park, they all wear masks, so we feel quite safe. We're going out because it'll be her last time practically with us that she'll be able to do that sort of thing. So we're hoping the weather's nice. And if she says yes, I'm going to take a little film, put that up. If not, it's about the 39 steps again. But I've got something else to tell you about that. So I'll do that at the end. And then last week we talked about Auntie Ada. Going into Auntie Ada's room for me, what it was like, and also a hotel room. When we went to my brother's wedding, we stayed in a lovely hotel right on Piccadilly Circus. We were all so excited, but we tell you what that experience was like. And I have a little chat with Pete. We just got in from our walk actually down the 39 steps, and I said, come on, let's do it. So we plopped ourselves down and we had a conversation. We had tried it a few times before, but he goes into so much detail. So he said, you talk and I'll fill in. So I said, okay. So that's what we landed up doing. So welcome. Where shall I start? Well, I'll start with the bits I've made this week, shall I? I'm making Pete a pair of socks. He's got a beautiful pair of burgundy shoes. They're real special shoes. He's had them for years and they're all worn in and he polishes them all. Not that we go out much now. Well, that's it. But he said, can you do me a pair of socks the same? And so I've started a pair of socks for him. Do you know what? When you knit socks, there's something about it. Turning that heel and knit, and then he puts them on. He loves, I can't tell you how much Pete loves a hand knitted pair of socks. So that's what I'm knitting for him. They've got a lovely little pinky hue. It's not a dull red. It's lovely. And he said, do them plain because they'll go with the shoe then. So that's what I'm just sitting watching telly and doing those. Don't have to think, do you? So Opal Wool, and it's lovely. It's knitting up lovely, and it's so reasonable. I mean, I love the indie dyed wool and all of that, but that's expensive compared with this. I think this is £6 for all that, so it's worth it, really worth it. So that's what I've been knitting. Then I've knitted Tommy a jumper. Who knows how big he's going to be? We don't know, do we? I made a mistake. That's the little neck. And the sleeves are supposed to be the same as the neck. Little a little neck that rolls over. But of course, do you know what? The pattern is so small. You have to have a magnifying glass, and I can see without glasses. It was so small. Of course, you know what you like as a knitter. Oh yeah, I know what to do. It wasn't to first 6 rows reverse stocking stitch. So anyway, I thought I'm not undoing it. It's a little cuff. It's all right. And then these buttons were my Nan's. I've got her button box, and they're on a card, a very old-fashioned card. I mean, they haven't changed these buttons, have they? But it's the card that I know it's in Nan's button box. So I'm Tommy's great Nan. My mum is Tommy's great Nan. And the nanny that has this buttons out the button box is the great Nan. So it's a little cardigan with 3 times G's Nanny's buttons on. And it's a Rowan wool. It's cotton and yak. So it's got a nice smooth feel to it. It's knitted up nicely. And I've washed it, so it's washed up nicely too. And then, you've seen the quilt. Well, the quilt's all folded up nicely. And that's all done. You saw that last time, didn't you? So that's nice. I'm happy with that. And then I put the handles on the bag. Yeah. I like nice long ones, and then they go over the shoulder. That folds nicely there, and you don't have to worry about it. And I put the buttons on as a bit of reinforcement, because you know people do tend to overload these bags because they're so roomy, and they're so light. So I put these on. I had 4 of these, handmade with love. I thought they went all right. So that's the bag. That'll all go in the bag. And then I made him a pair of socks, the same as great granddad's. And I don't know if you turn the cuff over. It's a free pattern. I'll put it down below. It's a free pattern. It's so cute. I did that in Craft House Magic, Ellie's Wool. She's just had her baby boy. And love to you, Ellie. She won't watch this, but anyway. Love to you, Ellie. And I love Ellie's Wool, as you know. I've knitted so much in it. And so I used it for these little socks. They look more blue on screen than they do here. They're a sort of turquoise green, mermaid. Can you see that? They look blue on the screen, but they are in actual fact they go very well with this jumper. So that's his little pair of socks, the same as Grandad's. So we used to knit baby booties, didn't we? But now it's socks. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing. I don't know what you've been doing. Have you been crafting? Have you been resting? Have you been out? It's been nice. So, what is it now? It's time for a slurp of tea. So while I have my slurp... Oh, I remember. I've got something to read to you in TA. I nearly forgot, honestly. I've got it all written down upstairs, but then I forget to bring it down. So it's very hit and miss. We'll do the fascinating fact, and I'll try and get my head together. I'll see you in a minute.
Arctic ground squirrels hibernate up to 7 months in the year. Though sometimes compared to sleep, hibernation is very different. Sleep refreshes the brain. In contrast, hibernation seems to devastate it. As the squirrel enters hibernation, his breathing and heartbeat slow dramatically, and his tiny body chills to just below freezing. Blood flow slows to a trickle and deprives his brain of oxygen and nutrition. As the days pass, brain cells shrink, and thousands or even millions of connections that make up his memories appear to dissolve. Proteins clump to neurons, advancing memory loss. In some ways, his brain starts to resemble a brain affected by Alzheimer's disease. Then, something amazing happens. About every 2 weeks, he shivers vigorously until his body warms to its normal temperature, which it remains at for up to 15 hours. During this time, his brain cleans away the clumped proteins and regrows the shrunken neurons, restoring full brain capacity in about 2 hours. The process is repeated during his entire 7-month hibernation, depriving his brain of food and oxygen, then rebuilding it every 2 weeks until he emerges in the spring, unscathed. And that's not all. Scientists think that old connections between neurons are somehow marked for quick reconnection. So the squirrel gets back not just a working brain, but also something inconceivable, his memories. Researchers hope a better understanding of this process will pave the way for therapies to treat disease in the human brain.
Well, that really is a fascinating fact, isn't it? And they're so cute. They spend 7 months a year hibernating, for safety reason because of the cold. And it's just amazing what that brain does, and they know nothing about it. It's super. I'm going to introduce now Pete and I having a waffle. Let's put it like that. And when we listened back to it, Pete said, "Why did you say creep up the stairs?" And of course it made me think, why did I say we crept up the stairs going to see Auntie Ada? Well, it's a big Victorian house. They rented out the bottom downstairs, so they didn't ever shut the door. So we just went in the front door, and it's one of those Victorian dark halls. You know how they used to have them, sort of dark green lincruster and varnished doors. And I'd never been in a house like that before. To me, you knock on the door and you go in someone's house and they say, "Hello." No, we just opened the door, went in. Somebody else had a door there, and who they let it to because they owned this big house. And then we went up the stairs. Well, I hadn't long met Pete. I was 17 and a half, and we met New Year's Eve. And I think this was probably in the January. And he said, "Come on, well, let's go and meet my Auntie Ada and Uncle Elf." And so I was a bit nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And so when I said, "Oh, I crept up the stairs," of course, he didn't creep up the stairs. In fact, he lived there just before we got married, because when I met him, he was in the army. And I didn't want to be an army wife. I didn't want to get married to anyone in the army. So he left the army because he was a chef. And he was a chef in the army, in the catering corps. But yes, no, it wasn't me. Anyway, he didn't mind. So that's another story. I told you it was a chinwag. So when he left the army, his mum and dad had moved to Devon. And so they said, "Do you mind if we move, son? Now you're in the army and all of that." And he said, "No, Mum, you go for it." Well, of course, then we found our house, saved up for our house, and we put a deposit down, but we weren't getting married till the year 1968. So then he needed somewhere to live. So he went and lived with Auntie Ada. So for him, of course, he was just walking straight up the stairs and knocking on the door to go into their dining room. But for me, it was, I was nervous. So that's why I say we crept up the stairs. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. It was my brother's wedding. The children were quite young, about 14 and, whatever, and young. Anyway, I have to stop again because we're going into too much detail. There we are.
The Piccadilly Hotel, actually.
Oh, you see, we're trying to remember the name of the hotel and we can't. It was a lovely hotel. We thought, we were really excited. Let's go and stay there. Lovely. So we got the key. It wasn't a key. It was one of those cards you put in the door. That'll tell you. It was a really swish thing. We thought, wow, because we'd never seen those before. Pete got the card, put it in the door. We thought we couldn't wait. The girls were excited. We opened the door. What did you see?
Well, it's a campsite.
It was a campsite. There was a
Washing across the
corner to corner
Corner to
washing, hanging up.
the primer stone.
Yeah.
There was clothes strewn all over the
I mean,
beds.
if you could have done a film set like that, you'd stand back and say you'd done a good job there. That was
Yeah.
chaos. Well, we said,
Well, I was so gobsmacked, weren't we?
yeah,
That I'd shut the door
yeah.
and redone it and opened the door.
We said-
we couldn't believe
We
it.
shut the door and we all stood there, the four of us, and we said, that must be a dream.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. If you open it, it'll be all right. And it wasn't. Of course it wasn't. It was the same. So we went downstairs and we said, oh, this room isn't good. Oh, they're very shirty with us. It's just been serviced and this and that. What's wrong with it? Thinking we were going to say,
Can't get in for...
No, we said it's a campsite. Rubbish. They actually said that, didn't they?
They said rubbish.
They were very rude and we wouldn't recommend the hotel if we could remember the name. But of course it is going back a bit.
40 years.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Must be. Anyway, of course they came up. They opened the door and they were so cocky, weren't they? They knew that this hotel room was going to be serviced. And it wasn't. It was a campsite. Oh, they said, quickly shut it and then put us in different rooms. We weren't enamoured after that. The excitement had gone.
You went to have your hair done. It cost a fortune.
Yeah, I had my hair done. It was all going to be one of those special times. And it turned out not to. Oh, I looked awful. Oh, no. So that was that hotel. And then I was going to tell you about Auntie Ada. We lived on the corner and you went down this road and then turned left and there was Auntie Ada's house. Anyway, met Pete, hadn't long met him, and he said, shall we go and see Auntie Ada? I said, where does she live? 119 Bowes Road. You go down Powsey Lane. I said, Powsey Lane? Where's Powsey Lane? And he said, took me to the window. He said, look out there. I said, yeah. He said, see that road there? I said, yeah.
Powsey Lane.
He said, that's Powsey Lane. I said, no, it's not. That's Powys Lane. No, it's not. It's Powsey Lane. Right, so we did. We went out, stood on the corner of the street.
She's right, as usual.
And I read that. I said, read that. Oh, can you remember?
I
Being
remember
surprised?
that. Well, because for as long as when the day I was born, it was called. They all called it Powsey Lane. All our family called it Powsey Lane. Oh, it's Powsey Lane.
Yeah.
So I never even looked at the.
No,
the,
you just
the
knew it was
street sign.
Powsey Lane.
I just knew it was Powsey Lane.
I said, no, it wasn't. It's Powys
I
Lane.
couldn't believe it.
Anyway, we walked down Powys Lane, or Powsey Lane, and turned left, and there's his aunt. Right, it was a big Victorian house. And so he said, Auntie Ada lives upstairs, and we sort of crept up these stairs, and then it was sort of like varnished doors and lots of dark green, all of that. This was 1967, and I'll never forget that. I can see it now. Blazing coal fire. Uncle Alf, he was sitting by the fire with his stick, with his dog next to him. Patsy, yeah. Of course, Laura the parrot in the cage.
Yeah.
Big cage though, wasn't it?
Couple of canaries
Singing away. I mean, the noise in there was quite deafening
Aunt
with
Rose.
Laura.
Aunt Rose doing the fiddly bits.
Aunt Rose doing it, because then there was a big table, apart from the table they ate from. There was a big table there. Sit down, they said.
Want a cup of tea?
It was stiflingly hot. All these birds, Patsy, Uncle Elf sitting right by the fire, and then sitting at the table was Aunt Ada and Auntie Rose. And what were they doing? What did they do?
Paint soldiers.
They used to paint soldiers for a little bit of extra cash.
Toy soldiers.
Now, could Auntie Rose see?
Oh, Aunt Rose could see, yeah.
Auntie Rose could see.
Yeah, Aunt Ada couldn't see very much.
Auntie Ada. So what bits did Auntie Ada paint?
Well, she painted all the bits, but she wasn't supposed to.
What bits was she supposed to paint?
I can't remember.
I
now.
think
Uncle Elf used to do the faces.
Oh.
And he was just as bad.
Yeah. And so it was this big brush. Slop. Slop, slop, slop. But it was the dialogue between the two women.
You haven't done that bit there.
Yeah, I mean, that bit there's rubbish. Look at the face there. The trousers are the wrong colour.
Oh.
I mean, so there was those two going on. Really?
You got about £1 of gross.
Yeah, and so there's boxes of them
And I
in the
don't know
hall.
why they did it, because Uncle Alf and Aunt...
Yeah, they were okay.
Aunt Ada had a few bob. They weren't...
They just sat each
I
night
think they just
painting
used to enjoy
these
doing
soldiers.
it and moaning at each other.
But it was so different to my house. I mean, in my
It's all
house,
going on, I tell you.
you didn't speak to each other like that, and you certainly didn't have a canary or Laura or Patsy. Get out the way of the fire, Patsy. Oh, cup of tea, you know. Oh, I say. It was quite amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Anyway, so that's the story of meeting Auntie Ada for the first time and going into that hotel room. I wonder how many people have had that experience. One off. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that rambling. Oh dear. So it's time for TA now. And if you watched last week's TA, you'll know that I was having trouble with my thoughts. Controlling parent was hammering away, saying, why are you doing all of this? And so my friend Heather, as you know, she's written, if you've watched previous ones, she's written The Carpet Shop and, some beautiful poems. She said, Pen, I've written you a poem, Penelope's Chinwag versus Child and Controlling Parent. So I thought before I start on the TA, I'll read you the poem. I'm going to press delete, sighed Pen. These chinwags have to go. Everybody hates them. Why did no one let me know? Why would people listen to my chat? It's such a bore. To have to watch each Saturday must be a hateful chore. I know it's simply ghastly and it really should be gone. I'll insist that YouTube ban me and refuse to let me on. All my crafts are dreadful. Tell me, who would want to see my knitting and my quilting whilst I'm slurping down my tea? People say they like it, but I know they want me gone. No one wants to hear me waffle on and on and on. I've just done Chinwag 20, and the views have grown each week. That clearly means they hate me and can't bear to hear me speak. I bet the viewers meet online and laugh about my vlog and ask, who's going to tell her? And does Mila write her blog? Mila's my great-granddaughter, she's 2. They must hate every episode I've made them all sit through. I'll read you out some comments to prove what I say is true. So interesting. Please do some more about the DNA. The nature facts are lovely. I hope Chinwag's here to stay. Thank you, Pen. It's marvellous. Exactly what I need. To view all your creations is a crafting treat indeed. It's the highlight of my week. I enjoy it oh so much. Your films are really special, though the Doric's double Dutch. Pen, we really love it. It's so interesting and fun. The episodes are brilliant. Yes, each and every one. How odd, thought Pen. That isn't what I thought the viewers said. I'll tell you how I thought these lovely comments really read. Please, no more. They're awful. We simply cannot cope. Give up on the podcast, love. There really is no hope. Your garden's a disaster with no butterflies or bees. Your pond's a muddy puddle and your squirrels all have fleas. It's all so dull and dreary. It just doesn't pack a punch. And we don't care how many fish fingers Pete is cooking for your lunch. We beg you, no more vlogging. We're bored and just don't care. Please disconnect your broadband. This is more than we can bear. Hang on, I've read them all again. Oh, now I think I see. If everybody loves it, then the problem must be me. Giddy aunt. It's clear as day. Why ever did I doubt? I've looked back at my TA notes and worked the whole thing out. Well, I can't be sitting here all day. I really have to run. I'm going to go and make a start on Chinwag 21. Oh, Heather, you just don't know how much that means to me. It means I get emotional when I read that. It means so much. Thank you so much. And getting on to the TA, you see, it's interesting because when you tell people, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, when I was saying to my friends, oh, I don't know about this TA, controlling parents really saying to me, la, 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 right, oh, la, la. I didn't believe that. You don't want to blow your own trumpet, but I didn't think they were that bad. But the thing is, controlling parent was telling me to stop. And that was what I couldn't quieten. But I did it last week. I did it with you. Adults said, well, if you want to carry on, what do you need to do? And I said to Adult, I need to listen to you. Pete had been telling me that. He said, look, love, either do it or not. Either do it or not. That's Adult, isn't it? No, I had to find my Adult. All the nurturing parents, all my friends out there were saying, we love it. Even if nobody watches it, do it for us. Well, but it was my controlling parent that had to shut up. I didn't know how to do that until I struck, of course, listen to Adult. Yeah, and Adult said, do you want to do it? I said, well, I do. I enjoy it. But, oh no, excuse me. Well, do it then. Do it. And I haven't had controlling parent this week. I just thought, oh, lovely, been free of that. So that's a hint how to stop these voices in your head. Did you notice when she put in the poem, everybody? That's what we do. We catastrophize, it's called. Everybody hates it. Well, one person might say it's not for me. Well, that's fair enough, isn't it? We don't expect it to be for everyone, but that's what we say in our head. Controlling parent, nobody likes it. I don't know why you're doing it. Think too much of yourself. So Adult said, what do you want? Yeah. So I hope that helps. So we're going to do a bit more on strokes. Yeah, it's a great poem though. Thank you. Great friend. So we've talked about the strokes. We've talked about what kind of strokes there are, haven't we? And I want to talk about giving and taking strokes this week. There's rather a lot to learn about strokes. Now, some people start off giving what we call that positive stroke. Oh, I like your dress. Oh, thank you. That's nice. Of course, do you remember positive conditional? Because if I wasn't wearing the dress, you couldn't comment on it. Oh, I like the dress. Did you get it in the charity shop in the town? Oh, changed it. Got a bit of a sting in the end, hasn't it? Yeah, I can see you're understanding this, more or less. Starts out as a stroke, but then there's a sting in the tail, isn't there? And we call these in TA counterfeit strokes, because they're not really strokes. They appear to be a stroke, but they're not. They're counterfeit strokes. So when we get really into the TA and I talk about these things, I say, do you remember that's a counterfeit stroke? So yeah, it's a counterfeit stroke because it doesn't carry through. That person doesn't really mean it. They give something positive, but then they take it away again. Then there's other people, you probably know them. All they do is dish out positive strokes. Oh, you're marvellous. Oh, Chinwag's fantastic. Oh, they gush. I mean, some people do say that. Oh, we love it. We look forward to the next one. I believe them. They say it. You can hear them saying it. Just as. But then there's these people that are very gushy. Oh, so wonderful to see you again. They grin from ear to ear. I read that article you wrote there. Oh, it was brilliant. Oh, I know. Oh, all of that. We call that in TA marshmallow throwing. Yeah. It's just going to the extreme, isn't it? It's like you've had all these sweet, sweet, sweet marshmallows thrown at you. Then there's other people, they find it very hard to give you a positive stroke. Oh, it's very hard for them. Why? Because they were brought up in a house where there wasn't too many positive strokes. And also cultural background. If you live in Italy, you probably get a lot. But you live in England, maybe, if you're a Londoner, maybe your family didn't give too many positive strokes. Yeah, whereas a Caribbean culture, you might get a lot more. So culture does come into it. Now, when we have this taking of the strokes, we all have a different way that we accept them. I might like to hear strokes for what I do rather than who I am. You may prefer strokes that are unconditional. So if I said to you, oh, I really love being in your company, you might get embarrassed, not know what to say. Whereas if I say something about what you do, you're brilliant at your job, everyone can see that, you might feel more ready to accept that stroke. So most of us accept strokes for what we're used to. So if you're changing now, if you're noticing these strokes, you might notice that people do give you strokes, but because they're not the ones that you generally have been in the way of receiving, you don't accept them. In fact, you sometimes don't allow yourself to accept them. Oh, we love Chinwag. Oh, well, it's a lot of waffle, really. Instead of, oh, thanks, I'm glad you enjoy it. See the difference? We're going to go on to talk a lot more about this. So maybe then, yes, if I don't say, oh, that's good, thank you, I'm glad you enjoy it. Maybe I found it difficult to accept strokes. So I might have wanted an adult to give me a big hug, but those big hugs weren't around. I'm not saying that's true in my case, this is an example, but the big hugs weren't around. So I denied myself that. I said, oh, you don't really want them. And so I learned to accept different types of strokes. So a high quality stroke to me might be a low quality stroke to you. And we're going to build on this a bit more next week. We're going to talk about a stroke filter because that's what we have. I like your hair. I can remember the first time I actually said, oh, thanks. It took some doing for me. Oh, it needs cutting, which it does actually, but Oh, yeah, I haven't done it properly today. It needs washing. Yeah. I like your hair. Oh, thanks. So it's like we have this filter and we only let certain strokes through. So we'll develop that a little bit more next week. Now, there's something else I was going to say to you, and I've forgotten it again. It came in my head as I was talking, and it's gone. So I'm just going to go and have a slurp of tea and see if it comes back. No, I've said everything that I planned to say, except just to talk about the 39 steps again. I was reading this book, Creative Coast, by Richard Lewis. I got it in my local post office. Chapters in the story of art and literature from Kent's Isle of Thanet, which is where I live. And the monumental Wilkie Collins. Now, when I was about 16, I got a book called The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. And I can remember sitting there reading it in I was captured by it. And I can remember it was sitting round the fire, coal fire, And when I finished that book and put it down, I remember saying to my mum, wow, what a book, how anybody could write that. And then he wrote The Woman in White, and I read that as well. I really enjoyed it. And Wilkie Collins was a friend of Charles Dickens, and as you know, well, you probably don't know, but Charles Dickens stayed in Broadstairs, as did Wilkie Collins. In fact, he lived in between Ramsgate and Broadstairs. So reading this book, he had a fear of marriage, so he had two relationships and had children by them, and these books made him a lot of money. But after he'd finished writing them, he had a bit of a nervous breakdown, and then he started taking, is it laudanum? That's what I think it was called. But he took enough to kill a person, really. But yeah, he was never the same really after that. But he was great friends with Charles Dickens, and I think Charles Dickens' daughter, yes, Wilkie's brother Charles, he married Charles Dickens' daughter, Kate. Yeah, so they were absolutely good friends. Anyway, the long and the short of it is that he was down here, and it was looking at the lighthouse. What does it say? There's also apart from the fact that Wilkie Collins started writing the novel in Broadstairs while sharing a cottage in Ramsgate Road with Caroline, there's a general view that he hit on the actual title, The Woman in White, while he was on the North Foreland, looking up at the North Foreland lighthouse. He said, apparently, he threw himself on the grass and said, "You are as still and weird as my white woman, the woman in white." That's the title, by Jove. Yeah, so there he is, on the same place, the same bit of grass, they're saying, as John Buchan when he wrote the 39 Steps. And in this book, it says he told his brother-in-law that there were in fact 78 steps leading down to the beach, and they're the ones we walked down that you saw in the film last week. Down to the beach on the North Foreland, but he had divided the number by 2 to arrive at a more interesting title. It's intriguing to think that the grass Wilkie threw himself on to was exactly the grassy spot where John Buchan would find his famous steps 55 years later and be inspired to write another one of the English language's great mystery stories. So just round there where you've seen us walk so many times in the films if you've watched, and then now we're going down the 39 steps. Everybody calls them the 39 steps. Well, this book says that was the rumour. He divided it in half. The other book says, Secret Broadstairs, that the actual steps were, do you remember, they were attached to Kingsgate Castle when it was a hotel. So who knows? All we know is John Buchan was staying just round the corner, and he got his revelation for the film and everything just round the corner, sitting on the grass, and so did Wilkie Collins with The Woman in White, looking at that lighthouse that I've shown you so often in the films. So that's my introduction. I haven't done the film yet. I've just got it in the camera, but no doubt it'll just be a little something. So you have a good week, and I hope you get done all you want to do, and also have a good rest. And I'll say cheerio and see you next time. Bye. I've just popped back because I remembered what I was going to tell you. I've been busy all morning, and I watched the Bakery Bears, and Kay Jones, she told us about Mary Berry's mincemeat, and I made it, and it is so divine. I just thought I'd tell you how lovely it was. It's not like the jars of mincemeat that you buy. It is absolutely beautiful. I made a big, oh look, my mum used to make, instead of mince pies that are quite deep, aren't they? you don't really want, I don't like them that deep. So my mum used to make flans and that's what I've done. She comes for lunch on a Saturday and so I've made her a flan. I've made my own mincemeat. It's so quick. You wouldn't believe it. I'll put the ingredients down below. And it was watching the Bakery Bears with Kay Jones and she said it's Mary Berry's recipe. And it's I can really vouch for it. It didn't take me long. I did a big flan, which is lovely then. I just couldn't get it in the, I've got to, keep it fresh. It was just that bit too wide, so I've just eaten the edge. So and then I've made some little ones. They're in the freezer now. So if you just fancy a little something, with a drink, they're there. And then 2 jars of the mincemeat. And it's absolutely delicious. I can really vouch for it. So I'll put the recipe down below if you fancied making it. And with the pastry, she said, Kay Jones that is, on Bakery Bears, she said grate the rind of an orange into it. And that's what I did. So it's got you can't really, it just all melds together and it is absolutely delicious. So that's what I had in my mind to tell you. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the little film. See you next week.